What is up, everybody, and welcome back to Godspeed ZRZ. Now today I wanted to go over some really important information on this Rubicon 392. So if you guys watched the last video, you'll know we have the 38-15-50 Mickey Thompson Baja Boss on now with the 20x12 -44 offset, and these things are just absolutely massive in terms of width, and they look amazing, they really do. But to be quite honest, they're extremely heavy. And this thing is completely stock, so I haven't done any new gearing. It came with the 373 gears, so I mean, it's kind of rough right now, and I really didn't expect it. It's not that it lacks power, but it's just pretty sluggish. I had some unrealistic expectations for the way it would perform. Now it still does great, but there are some major downfalls that need to be addressed, and there are some extra modifications, some supporting modifications that we're going to need to add to make these things livable. But I'm sure you guys want to see it for real, so whenever I pull it out, I'll get a couple shots for you, and then we'll just jump in on the way to work, and I'll really go over all the things we really need to address rather quickly. Alright guys, so we're on the way to work now, and I figured this would be the perfect opportunity to really tell you guys how this thing feels now since we put on the bigger wheels and tires. Gotta let you get a couple rips in too, but really and truly guys, since I've thrown on these wheels and tires, it really has drastically changed the performance of this vehicle. Not really just in terms of the actual performance, the speed, but the agility and the quickness, especially of the actual gearing. So in the stock Rubicon 392s, the non-XRs, we only have the 373 gears, and we have the higher gear ratio for our transfer case versus the 4:1 in the standard Rubicon, and the standard Rubicon has the 4:10 gear ratio. I don't know why they didn't just put the 4:10s in standard on the Rubicon 392. Response of the vehicle itself, and of course the transmission shift points. So my initial thoughts would be that the power would really overcompensate for the gearing, but if you were to just get in this and not really know, it would be perfectly fine. drive-in are mountain-ish, so there's a lot of uphill, downhill stuff around here, so I'm sure that goes into play with it. Now, for the actual transmission itself, on the interstate, I don't run into 8th gear near as often as what I feel like I should, but on the back roads, just going 55, 60, 65, you know, you do run into 8th gear. Like right now, I'm going 57, and we're in 8th gear. You can hear the shift right there, and it performs great on the back roads. You don't really feel anything, and especially once you get out of 1st gear, you don't really notice the gearing, the lack of gearing anyway. But whenever you are at a dead stop and you try to pull out, it's kind of sluggish. And knowing how the Rubicon 392 should feel, it's pretty disappointing. So we definitely need to re-gear. Even at a stop, it'll throw you back in the seat. You've still got plenty of power and more than enough passing power. Right now we're at 50 miles an hour. And as soon as we get on this straight section here, I'm going to stomp it until we're at 60 and you guys will be able to hear. We're at 50 now. I think it is a little bit more sluggish though, and the gearing should fix that all on its own. Now, to go beyond that, obviously the power mods are finally going to be coming in. So now that we have the need for more power, we're going to add more power. I would like to go ahead and take this thing to probably 550 with simple tunes and bolt-on modifications. It should be pretty easy to do. I would like to go ahead and add a cam for the 6.4. They sound great with the cam in them. And then we are going to be changing out the exhaust again. So for now, I just have a straight pop. We went through three different variations of a straight pop on this that you guys can see on previous videos. But the one that's on now, the way everything's angled up at certain RPMs, anything above 42, 4500, anything above about 4200, I do get a weird kind of vibration noise, and I believe that's due in part just to everything being welded. There's probably 4 separate pieces past the catalytic converter, or actually 5 separate pieces including the tips. So there's a lot of points that, you know, can get a little bit more vibration and make that noise. So we're definitely going to go ahead and address that. As for the fender flares, we are going to be adding some different fender flares here soon as well. But for right now, tell me what you guys think. I've never really done the stock steel bumper, the stock steel rear bumper, and the stock fender flares. And I've always kind of wanted to with a really big wheel and tire setup. I've only seen very, very, very few vehicles with, you know, this size of wheels and tires still running stock fenders. Actually, I've never seen one in person, but it's something neat to see on the road because it almost makes you think, like, is that factory or is that some kind of special edition? So I kind of do like that, and I almost thought about, this is far left field and totally against what I typically do, I did think about putting on those Fender Extensions like the XR, just to see what that would look like. I typically wouldn't like that, but at this point I think I'm just curious. So we're going to add a couple extra little accessories, a couple extra bolt-ons, and it's definitely going to spruce up the build quite a bit, make it stand out quite a bit more. And inevitably, I would like to change out the suspension, just because I want to run coilovers. So I believe we can get the coilovers from Skyjacker Suspension, do their coilover kit, and it is adjustable. I believe it's a 3 to 6 inch, so I could probably adjust the suspension maybe just 1 inch higher than what this is, or take it up to 3 inches higher than what this is. But I would like to probably take it maybe 1 inch higher and just level out the front and the back and get that nice smooth ride from the coilovers and also the look. Now, in terms of keeping this thing in between the lanes, or in between the lines anyway, on these back roads, it's still really, really easy to do, which I've had this almost exact same setup on 3 different Jeeps now, the 38 1550s with 20x12s, -44. So I'm definitely very, very used to it. I forgot what my measurement is from tire to tire, but it is very wide. I'm sure we still have about 6 inches to the white line, 6 inches to the yellow line. And previously I have ran 2-inch spacers, which didn't need to do. I ended up taking them off, but with a similar setup on a JK. Now, they weren't full width 44s. The JL 44s are a little bit wider, but not 2 inches on each side, so 4 inches in total. I think these are a total of ½ an inch wider on each side, maybe 1 inch wider on each side. And I did run 2-inch spacers with the 38 1550s, 20x12 -44s, and it almost felt like those were touching all lines at the same time. It didn't I would definitely advise just going ahead and get the negative 54. It may stick out another inch more, but it'll give you that look a lot better, in a lot cleaner way. But just going back to the power, guys, the power of this is still great. Don't get me wrong. At a dead stop at 80 miles an hour up to 99, which we have crossed triple digits now since the tires are off for the speed. I haven't got them recalibrated yet. We are going to do that here soon, but I have hit triple digits in it now, so it feels like it gets up to speed almost the same. Obviously there's quite a bit of a difference. That's inevitable whenever you add these bigger wheels and tires and don't add power yet, but the sound is actually a little bit better too. It always seems to be just a hair more labored than what it was. With the 35s or even the 33s, it always sounded like the 6.4 was just pretty much at idle, and the 6.4 at idle sounds great, but whenever you're going probably 1200 RPMs, 1300 RPMs versus being 1500 RPMs, the difference in sound on the 6.4 is drastic. I mean, you can definitely tell it sounds more aggressive, and it just feels better. It actually feels like a real Jeep now. Aside from all the downfalls that come with putting on a bigger set of wheels and tires, even if you're going to leave it at stock gearing, even if you're in a regular Sahara, a Sport, a standard Rubicon, I always advise putting on the bigger wheels and tires if that's something you're wanting to do, and just add the supporting mods later. If you're not going out absolutely destroying it off-road and trying to climb Mount Everest, it's really not going to matter that much. You can build it gradually and continue to make it better and better, like I plan to do with this one, but all of the supporting modifications are not necessarily required just to go ahead and throw them on. I think if you have the ability, go ahead and do it, and then you get a real feel for the Jeep all on your own, and you get to really decide what parts you think are crucial to get the performance you want. And for me at this point, that's definitely going to be probably a pedal commander, the new gearing, 456 or up or down, however you want to say that. I would like to change up the exterior just a little bit more. I'm not sure what I'm going to do right now. I have been thinking about the Pro Line skins that go on it. They have a black and gray American flag. That's really cool. Also thinking about getting the matte PPF, the paint protective film. That is matte, so it would make this look like more of a satin gray, which would definitely stand out quite a bit more, look different whenever you pull up. And then for the interior, I actually want to do some stuff on the interior for this. I think we should add the marine speakers in the back. They would look cool, mount those on the C pillars or the D pillars. And the sub itself is fine. I have a 15-inch Sound Cube deep dish competition sub at the house, so if we want to, we can throw that in, but I really don't feel like the sub's necessary for me at this point in my life. I really just drive it to work, and then I'll drive it out to go riding for a little bit. Nothing too crazy. I'm not trying to impress anyone with this one, at least for the sound system. But the marine speakers would be a great add. I would like to go ahead and change out the speakers up here in the top too. There's actually 3 separate speakers in there as far as I know, so maybe I don't think I want to go with Alpine again and change up the front speakers as well, just to give us more of a crisp sound. I have been going back and forth with adding the Addictive Desert Designs ADD pre-runner style front stubby stinger bumper, and I think that would look great. But I was actually driving down the road the day before yesterday, saw a Gladiator lifted on 37 1250s 1350s with some bronze bead locks. It was a gray Gladiator. It looked really good, and it had the ADD bumper that I'm talking about on the front, and it almost just looked like it was a little bit too small. And I know that sounds weird because I love that slim pre-runner style bumper, but with the guard that covers your electronic sway bar disconnect anyway, there is a certain amount of clearance that you already have that it just doesn't get much better in terms of the entry angle. Now for the departure angle off the rear bumper, I think the ADD pre-runner style rear bumper would suit the purposes really well for that, but I'd like to wait for the fender flares before we do that, just because it'll all coincide, it'll look a lot better together. That's pretty much going to wrap it up for today. I just wanted to fill you guys in and let you know how it's going with the new wheels and tires. I really wanted to give you guys my opinion on the downfalls of adding these bigger wheels and tires, and if you're in the 392, I promise it's not that bad. So let me know what you guys think. Let me know what you think about the setup we have now and what we should do next. But I did guys something else. I actually just saw the Rubicon truck for the first time on the street, and it was just a normal lady just driving it down the street, and it was in that kind of like that slate blue color. It looked awesome on the road, completely silent. It creeped up on me like nothing. It was really, really weird, but I tried to get a little bit of a pull next to her. She wasn't interested in that, but hopefully if I can find out who that is, or we can see one here soon, I'd like to go ahead and do a little review on it, or a little comparison. I know the Rubicon's coming out with the new SUV that's supposed to be a Bronco beater. They haven't really mentioned it much compared to the Rubicon 392, just because you got to be careful whenever you do that. This is the top dog in the market for what it is for now. But if you haven't already, please like, comment, subscribe. Let me know what you guys think and what you want to see next. And until next time,